What's up, everybody? I'm Casey Gilman, Church Administration here at Emmaus, and you are?
I'm Bryan Holt. I'm the pastor here at Emmaus.
All right, so you mentioned something a few weeks ago that I don't know what it is.
No?
It's called organic ministry.
Yeah.
So if you want to tell us a little bit about what that is and
Yeah. So it's not a technical term.
Okay.
It's just kind of the way I describe what I believe like is kind of the pattern or like the process for how we create programs as a church, how we do ministry as a church.
Okay.
And so what I mean, organic ministry, kind of the basic idea is that the instead of the programs of the church like being developed from the top down by the elders who then say we're going to roll out this program to the church, that it actually is more of they like kind of spring from the bottom up.
Okay.
Right. So the way I see my role as an elder and as a pastor of this church is really about casting vision for where we're headed. So
Okay.
what we believe as the elders, what we believe God is calling us to, what he's kind of laying out for us to do. And then we pray that God gives people passion for specific ways that they've been gifted and called to carry that out. So that plays out in the sense that instead of people saying, I see a need for this thing, elders need to do something about that.
Oh, okay.
Right. So that kind of, is kind of a typical kind of thing. It actually puts the responsibility of church life onto the church members, which I believe is the way that it should kind of flow. Now, the primary way that this works out at Emmaus is through the ministry teams of the church.
Okay.
So they each team that we've talked about, there's a video about that, has their own primary kind of area of responsibility, right? And so the hope is, and kind of the expectation that we've set is that each team meets once a year and sets their goals for the year.
Okay.
And then they if they do that early enough, they can ask for a certain amount for their budget based on what their goals are for the year. And a lot of this is ideal. Right. We're working on how this happens.
Right.
And then so they request budget. And then based on their goals, they then they're empowered to fulfill the goals that they set for each year. Right. They're the ones that are invested in it. They're the ones who are passionate about it. And so they're the ones that like are kind of tasked with seeing it through. And so what the elder's role is in that is to like support them, empower them, help guide them, like especially in like the goal setting process. So I've met with a number of teams and helped them set their goals for the year, so that they're in line with the vision of the church. They're in line with kind of like where we believe that we're headed.
Right.
And then like we equip the saints for works of ministry. So we're like, hey, you guys have this passion, you have this vision, like go for it. Right. You have our support, like whatever you need from us, like we're there. So, so that kind of means two primary things.
Okay.
So the one thing is, in that vision casting piece, in that like we are promoting a passion and giving biblical teaching towards the broad direction of the church. So here's where we're going.
Okay.
Like here's what we believe God's called us to.
Right.
And then God is bringing people to the church with different skill sets, different backgrounds. And so he might be calling them to be a part of something rising up from the church. Right. So, so that's the one thing. The second one is teaching and preaching the Bible to prepare people to share their faith as they carry out whatever God has called them to be a part of at ECC. So
Okay.
so that's kind of like I know that's a little bit long, but like
Right.
it's it's a it's a different understanding of how um, how ministry works within the church, which I've just seen um, over my experience. Like it's a harder way.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest.
Right.
It's more difficult because you're having to like engage people in the process, and you're having to walk alongside them.
Right.
Um, but I think the results are more people are invested,
Mm-hmm.
more people have ownership over the things that the church is doing,
Mm-hmm.
and we might have ideas that the elders may not have thought
Right.
of, right? So you're
Yeah.
not putting square pegs in round holes by saying, well, this is what we do.
Right.
If there's something that somebody doesn't see happening that they have a passion for,
Right.
like, yeah, let's see how we can work that out. All
Yeah.
right. So
Yeah, absolutely. So, what does this mean for the programs that we have at the church, or do we have programs?
right. So this is probably a big thing. Like I think I made a distinction between a programmatic church and an organic church, and I
Okay.
think that was a wrong distinction.
Okay.
This was in a meeting a while back,
Okay.
because the church has programs,
Right.
right? But the way that those programs come about
Mm-hmm.
is different, right?
Yeah.
It's not the leadership, the elders and the deacons going, we need to do this as a church.
Mm-hmm.
It is us responding to people who have a passion for something. So one example of this, and I can throw out several examples. So the ECC kids,
Yeah.
right? So they're tasked with like being a part of coming alongside the parents and educating the children of the church,
Mm-hmm.
you know, sharing the faith, all the things that they are tasked with. So the classes that are set up for the ECC kids are not dictated by the elders.
Yeah.
That team determines what they
Mm-hmm.
are going to do based on the needs of the kids, based on what they see going on.
Right.
So they also determine whether or not we're going to do VBS. So in
Yeah.
years past, we did VBS. For the past 2 summers, that team decided we're not going to do VBS this year.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's one example. Another example of it is the evangelism team.
Mm-hmm.
So they set their goals. Um, they wanted to, have an event. They wanted to support a missionary family.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple other goals that they have that I can't think of right now, but they set those goals,
Mm-hmm.
and they determine, kind of based on the vision of the church, here's
Right.
how we're going to do our part to walk this out.
Yeah.
So
So, do the elders create or make the programs, the church, or
so there
decisions?
have been times
Mm-hmm.
where we see a need or something that is important. Um, but I'll tell you a time where it failed.
Okay.
Okay, so we were talking about Sunday school, and
Okay.
somebody had brought in, hey, you know, we need to have Sunday school,
Right.
and so we kind of in an elders meeting, we were like, hey, yeah, we need to get this. Like, this is something that we think we should work towards. So
Right.
we kind of made a decision. Hey, we need to do this. Well, come to find out a few weeks later, like we kind of forced that,
Mm-hmm.
and it
Hmm.
didn't work out well.
Yeah.
Like it actually kind of backfired on us because one, we didn't know the staffing needs. We
Mm-hmm.
didn't know all of the things that were needed to make that happen, and it ended up being a burden on people.
Mm.
So that's one instance where we have kind of said, we've kind of stepped into that
Yeah.
role, and it didn't work out. There are other things that we do, like we have brought desires to the evangelism team.
Mm-hmm.
So we looked at all of the different things that the evangelism team was giving towards it, and we said, hey, the elders would love if our church significantly supported one missionary family.
Mm.
And that was something that the evangelism team also desired.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't dictate what they did, but we
Right.
kind of said, hey, here's something that we would love to see
Mm-hmm.
because we want our church to feel invested in.
Right.
And so they were on board with that, and now we're
Yeah.
supporting significantly a missionary family. So
Right.
so it's not it's like a working together
Mm-hmm.
as much as it is, um, you know, it's not dictating one way or the other.
Right.
It's like, how do we, as this body that God's brought together,
Mm-hmm.
like work together to see
Yeah.
things? So
Okay, so we've talked a lot about like the roles of the elders in the
mhm.
different teams. So what about the roles of the deacons within the
So yeah, that's great.
ministry?
This is where kind of our structure, I think, plays out. So
Okay.
a number of the deacons, not every deacon,
Mm-hmm.
has a team that they're either leading
Mm-hmm.
or a liaison for.
Okay.
So their role in that is to help the team
Mm-hmm.
kind of like stay in line with the vision of the church, and then guide them and empower them
Mm-hmm.
to make the decisions that they need to make to like bring about the ministry of the church.
Okay.
So they have a significant role in that
Right.
they are really like, in some ways they're the front lines for as the empowerer of
Mm-hmm.
that team, so that they can give feedback, give support, and then they can bring, those decisions and the kind of the direction of those teams
Mm-hmm.
to the elders and deacons and saying, this is what this team's doing.
Yeah.
So a lot of these things are kind of like, this is where we're moving toward. This is
Yeah.
what, like, this is not like exactly playing out right now, if we're honest. And so I think this is something that people have asked me about. I think people have disagreed with me about,
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
organic ministry. And so my goal is to explain it
Right.
in a cohesive way so that it's not, so that it's just understood
Yeah.
better.
Okay, so can you explain maybe like one or two dangers of straying away, for like why you feel like this is
Why is this important to me?
Yeah, why is this important? Like, what are some dangers that concern you?
So you mean of going the other way?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Not of
That's probably dangerous to organic. We can talk about that after this.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know if I'd call them dangers, but I would call them challenges or like potential dangers.
Yeah.
One, I think it creates an environment where people are looking to the elders to solve all the problems in the church.
Okay.
There are times where elders need to solve problems. Like,
Mhm.
that's what we're called to do: lead, feed, guide, and protect. But when it comes to, like, somebody brought up, why don't we do this?
Mhm.
I won't name it. Why don't we do this here at the church? If we were a totally like top down,
Mhm.
that would put what they're able to do is go, here's this thing,
Mhm.
you deal with it.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
A lot of times, and I found in ministry, if people come to you with a problem, they very much want to just put that on you,
Right.
and then go about their way, and then they'll get upset if it doesn't happen.
Mhm.
Yeah. This type of ministry, if somebody comes to me with a suggestion,
Mhm.
most likely I will say, that's a great idea. You should take it to this team,
Mhm.
and you should join that team.
Right.
Right? If you have a passion for seeing something,
Yeah.
jump in.
Yeah.
Have, that is the way that
Mhm.
you can have. Now, and this is kind of, in a sense, like the weed out process of I found in ministry, nobody who's here currently, there are people who will give you lots of ideas for you
Mhm.
to do,
Mhm.
and not be willing to help out.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, if somebody's track record is like, oh, here's all these ideas for you to do, a
Mhm.
lot of times they'll get upset when you don't take their advice.
Right.
and that's not the call of Christians.
Mm-mm.
the call of Christians is to do the work of ministry.
Right.
And so it kind of, in a sense, you learn over time who is just has good ideas, and who's like, hey, I have this passion for this thing.
Right.
And I'm gonna take that to the next level.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I think, the danger of not doing it this way is that people begin to look to other people to fix the things that they see are wrong. And then later on, they'll be resentful if they don't see their suggestions follow through. This way, if you have an idea, all right, this is great. Sorry, I get excited about this.
No, as you should.
So if you came to me with an idea, and you expected me to handle it, right? If that idea, like maybe I take that idea to the elders and we talk about it,
right? And
we decide. I think where we are, that's not the greatest thing for us to do. It may be good, but it's not the best. And so you might go away and go, well, they didn't take my suggestion.
Right.
Well, maybe we did consider it.
Yeah.
But if you go to the evangelism team or to the ECC kids team, take your suggestion, and as that group talks about it, maybe you're convinced, hey, I'm not sure that was the greatest idea. Like maybe, they are doing, this is why.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that kind of like just brings people into the process.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Are you suggesting I have bad ideas?
No, I just was using you instead of naming people's names.
That's probably a good idea. Yeah, no, that makes sense. It's smart.
Yeah. So, and the dangers, we talked about, like challenges of doing organic ministry.
Because there are some both ways.
Yeah, I think there's challenges for sure. I think one challenge is things happen slower.
Yeah.
A lot of times people want to see change happen fast. And I have found that that's not how church.
Right.
Like it sounds great and it works great for big companies, but you know what? There's a lot of people who used to work for big companies or big churches who get run over and they walk away disillusioned because they were just being used by the machine.
Right.
But it does make the process slower, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But it can be frustrating for some people.
Right.
The other thing is sometimes things that we try might fail.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times and this has happened. This VBS, we're not doing VBS anymore. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Some people might say, well, we tried this thing and whatever happened to that program? And they might get upset.
Right.
But if it didn't end up if it didn't gain traction, if it didn't pan out, it's something that we tried, but the process is still worth it.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
The process of people saying, all right, we tried this thing.
Right.
So
definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Good thoughts. I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that explains it pretty well. So I guess actually I do have one more question.
Okay.
Why is organic the word you came up with?
Probably because it was popular 10 years ago. Okay. I don't know. To me, I can't think of, I haven't pondered a better word.
Right.
It's just something that as I see the distinctions, and being, having been in a ministry that was top down before, it really felt like the right word.
Okay.
But
cool.
It might not be the best word, but
maybe not.
We can make up a new word for it. I tend to have a knack for making up new words.
It's true.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for explaining it. I hope that was helpful for y'all. I know it was helpful for me.
Yeah. If you got more questions about it, feel free to drop them in the comments.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's a link in the description below.
Yeah.
So feel free to click that and fill it out.
Yep.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Bye.